Coming to you live from Bushwhacker HQ, it's Off Trail with Luke and Chandler. I'm Luke.
I'm Chandler.
And this is Off Trail. It's my best attempt at a Saturday Night Live intro.
That was great.
It was something.
Yeah.
Something different.
We should make that a regular.
Yeah. So today we are here and we thought we would talk about the not so obvious. And by that we mean, things like abstract photos, macro, texture, like things that, a lot of people when they get into photography, they're not actually really ever thinking about. Mm-hmm. They just think, landscapes or portraits. And it's like, those are great. And obviously we enjoy them, but there's a lot of other things that you can dive into. And once you do, a whole new world opens up.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about some of that today. I think the first thing we should talk about is just kind of what abstract means.
I agree.
And what kind of photos we're talking about. So lead us off, Chandler.
Well, so I think a really good example of this to start off with is you have this little From Above collection, little top-down series that you do.
I do.
Where you take your drone up, you point the camera at the ground, and you literally are taking photos of different patterns and textures on the ground. So it's a really kind of good example. If you haven't looked at Luke's page, go check out Luke's page. Go check out all of his top-down stuff. That's a really good example of some abstract stuff. But basically, what Luke is doing when he's taking those photos is he's looking at the ground and he's looking for different textures, different lines, patterns, shadows, anything that can make kind of a cool color, like different color balances, anything that can make a cool image. You're not taking a photo of more like an object, you're taking more so a photo of different patterns. And it's just a little bit different. Like when you're doing portrait work, you're taking a photo of a person. If you're doing abstract stuff, you're looking for colors and textures and patterns and lines and different things like that to take photos of.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good start to the conversation. It's like you're trying to look for details.
Yes.
And not necessarily some grand landscape or a person's face. It's all about finding something that just looks interesting and unique, neat, that, you just don't see ever.
Yeah.
And a lot of that has to do with patterns. And if you look at, my page, I post some of these on both my Not Luke Furman and the Luke Furman page, but not as often. But I have a whole separate page that's just for my top-down drone shops called From Above Collection.
Yeah.
So if you check that page out, you'll see, back to back to back, a ton of these, and you'll really get an idea of what we're talking about. And just so everyone knows what that collection is, it's a collection of all my drone shots where I'm looking literally straight down at the ground from the sky. So it's not even angled 89 degrees. Everything's 90 degrees, pointed straight at the ground. And so all of it is trying to capture some crazy looking, image that is, you almost even know what you're looking at. Is the point of it. And sometimes this is, down in the desert with just crazy cliffs and rocks that, might have good colors to them.
Yeah.
They might have interesting textures. Or sometimes you can really play with lighting and shadows. At the time of this recording, I had recently posted one on my Not Luke Furman page, which was today, that was of some sand dunes around sunset. And if you look at it, half of the dune is basically just black. It's in shadow, and the other half's lit up because of how dunes, are.
Yeah.
And when the sun goes down like that, you can kind of get some really neat things because the shadows kind of curve and make points, and it's just a unique looking thing. And you can capture something like that and have it still make a really neat photo.
Yeah.
Without having to pan up and have the horizon in your shot with the sun, clouds, a person, anything like that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what that is. But other times, it's, I'm up in the woods, and it's okay, I'm looking straight down on trees. Or you're in the city looking down on roads. It can be anything like that.
Yeah.
And it all just comes back to this idea of finding patterns and details and textures out in the world.
Yeah, exactly. I like to kind of think of it as you're looking for stuff that the eye doesn't typically see. And obviously a drone shot is a really easy example of that because a drone's, really high in the air and we can't see from where a drone is at. But but it's kind of taking a unique view on the world. So whether that's from high up or even really down close and doing macro photography and taking a lot of detailed photos of whatever. A lot of people do like flowers and insects and stuff like that, but there's a lot of stuff you can do with macro stuff.
You can do water droplets. I've
Yeah.
taken photos, but this is before I moved out here, of like icicles. And it's not like crazy close up where you're like looking at like the individual particles on the icicle, but like you can capture detail like with a macro lens, like in ways you can't do with other lenses. And so you can like see a lot more of the fine details and just add something different to the photo
Yeah.
that you don't normally get.
Yes.
And that's like the neat part about trying to do some of this abstract stuff.
Yeah. And if you do it right too, like there's a lot of photographers that I, like and I, that I look up to who a lot of people, kind of make fun of the landscape photographers who go out and take photos of mud cracks and like different ripples and stuff in the sand and stuff that, happens from water. And it's kind of funny. So you're like, it's cracks of mud. But like if you photograph it correctly, it can create something that's really cool looking. You get, especially like, if you're doing the right mud cracks or if you're doing different like ripples in the sand where like maybe the water is evaporated or something like that, then you get some really cool flow that happens in the photo and it generates some kind of a feeling. I don't know how to exactly explain it, but you can generate some really cool feelings through a photo like that.
Yeah, and I think a little bit what you're talking about there, like it speaks to one, like how hard it can be to like start in like the abstract space, because I struggled at first, and I for a long time claimed like I can't do this. I don't know what I'm looking at, but then like also it's just like you don't know exactly what you're looking at, and that's kind of why it's
Abstract and cool.
Yeah. And like you can find cool things in places you never thought you'd be able to.
Yeah.
So like things like mud cracks, like you don't anticipate it, but like you said, if you shoot it in the right way, you can pull something out of it that wasn't there before.
Yeah.
And suddenly everyone's like, yeah, that's actually a really great photo.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just another way that you can challenge yourself to start looking at things in different ways and to push the level of your own photography. Because just like every other genre or niche of photography you try to do, whether it's street, landscape, portraits, you name it, like it's all going to boost your skills and help you to, develop your eye for good frames in any other situation. And that's the important thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think maybe, if you're getting into this is something that I've done a little bit, but if you're getting into abstract photography, one good thing to reference to is look at abstract paintings.
Yeah. So like that is a really good point, because like a lot of say my top-down shots, some of them look like they're just like someone took a paintbrush and just drew over the place.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's like you wouldn't think to look for that out in nature, but that's kind of just what it is.
Yeah. And that stuff, those kind of patterns and color, like that exists in nature.
Yeah,
So-
it's not, it's totally different from taking landscapes, portraits and stuff, because like a lot of the same like rules or like guidelines you have for like compositions don't exist.
Yeah.
It's like just find something that fills the frame in a unique way that is different than a lot of other things you see.
Yeah.
And so, that makes it hard to be like, oh, is this a good photo or is it not?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you too, from my experience, because I've been doing top downs for over a year now, it takes a little while to get the hang of it. But then another thing is like sometimes you take a photo, like in my case, again, top down shots, and you look at it and you're like, I don't know, but you can edit it to bring it back out.
You can, yeah.
Like there's so many ones that I've had. I'm like, yeah, this doesn't look like much. And then, funnily enough, like half the time it's just like dehaze sliders. And someone's like, that's an amazing shot.
Yeah.
Like that's all it takes. But like sometimes you have to put a little work into it, and it's not just going to be obvious right away. Even to me, I've been doing it for a while. But like you can work some things out of those frames to make them even better.
Yeah. And I think, taking photos of something that's a little bit more, not to use the word abstract, but, abstract, something that's a little bit more unfamiliar to the eye, it gives you a little bit of creative flexibility, especially when you're editing. You can kind of push things a little, some ways that maybe you can't if it's looking more like it should be like a real life photo.
Oh, 100%. And, for a while, I was not going crazy with it. In some of my recent ones that I haven't shared yet, but I have pushed like colors, for instance, a little further
Yeah.
than are natural.
Yeah.
You know, I have one in particular I can think of.
I know what you're talking about.
That's like, you know, there's greens and yellows and oranges and reds and blues.
Yeah.
And
But
it was a rocky landscape. Like, let's be real. Like, those really weren't that strong, but
Yeah.
like they're kind of subtly there.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, because I remember when you, got something in my eye. I remember when you took, because I was with you when you took those photos, and we were sitting there in your truck flying our drones. And you're like, dude, there's green everywhere. And it's like, you can see it. It's not as strong, but like, it is there. You know,
Yeah.
those colors do exist in nature.
And then, you know, I push the saturation slider up a little bit, maybe play with the calibration panel in Lightroom, and suddenly I have a rainbow of colors throughout my frame that I can now play with.
Yeah.
But it gets to this point, like you said, because this is not like, you know, a normal landscape. It's like you can kind of push it.
Yeah.
And not, you don't need to keep it like believable. You know, if I have trees in my shot, like it's say like top down of a forest, like I'm not going to turn everything purple.
Yeah.
You know, like that's different. But like if it's truly something like you don't really know what you're looking at, and it's just like lines from cliffs and stuff, it's like, okay, like let's see what we can do here.
Yeah.
Or like if I have water, I might turn that water a little bit more blue.
Yeah.
You know, like I did this the other day. You know, I had a top down from Utah Lake, and if locals are listening, Utah Lake is not very blue.
Nope. It's very dirty.
And there, I got some ice in the shot as well.
Yeah.
And the way I took this photo is like half ice, half water. The ice I turned very white. The water I turned very blue. And even though I took that shot at Utah Lake, it looks like it belongs like in the Arctic Circle.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, like it's just like for fun.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not like a normal photo where I gotta be like, okay, I gotta keep this like realistic.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. You're gonna weird people out if you push some certain things, you know.
yeah, like abstract is an area of photography with, you know, that's, I would say maybe a little bit more artistic in nature than say just taking landscape photos or portraits.
Yeah, it's definitely more artsy.
Yeah, you have like that flexibility, the creative flexibility to do things. And so, you know, you can have some fun with it. And it's not just top downs. Like I speak about top downs because like that's what I do.
Yeah.
And that's the easiest way for me to see that stuff. And I enjoy it. But you can take the like abstract shots with your camera. You know, you get a good like long lens looking at like the sides of cliffs and stuff. Like you can find really neat patterns and textures that make a good frame.
Yeah. And I think one thing, so we were down in southern Utah, you know, a few weeks ago, and I've always really liked abstract photography, but I've always been kind of scared a little bit to get into it just because it's not something I'm very familiar with. And I, especially, you know, I've been so focused on getting better at landscape photography, and that's always been kind of my thing. Like I'm going to do this landscape stuff. I'm going to do it as best as I can, and I'm only going to really focus on doing that. But I've always wanted to do abstract. So every once in a while, like every time we go out, I take some abstract shots, but I never really do anything with them because I'm just like, I don't see it as well. Like I don't get it. But ever since seeing you do all these top downs, I've been more like, maybe I can, you know, let me try a little bit. And I ended up actually getting some shots that I think I really like. And it's funny because when I took the photos and when I pulled them back up into Lightroom, I was like, I don't know. I get the kind of the same feeling as I did before, but then I was like, nah, I'm gonna sit with it. I'm just gonna dive into it and
just use that D-Hay slider, baby.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it ended up being, you know, a pretty decent shot, something I'm really happy with. So it is kind of a weird genre of photography, and there's a lot of, I want to say there's actually, I think maybe what's hard about it is there's not a lot of rules, you know, there's just so much you can do with it. And it's a little bit like, oh, I don't know, you know?
Yeah. And it's almost like I said before, there's like less guidelines on how to get a good photo because, you know, if you're shooting landscapes or portraits, like a lot of times you're waiting till sunrise or sunset.
Yeah.
I've taken amazing top downs midday.
Yeah.
I've taken them at sunrise, sunset. Like I've taken them literally all day. And it just depends on like one, where you're at, and two, like the kind of conditions that you have. I personally love when it's overcast.
Yeah.
When I'm taking my top downs. Like when it's overcast, I know I have even lighting and I have so much room to play with the photo.
Yeah.
Because there's not going to be harsh shadows down there. Really. And I mean, you've literally seen this. Like I just moved that D-Hay slider over and like the photo comes alive.
Yeah, it really does.
And then like that's almost all I have to do, and then just play with color a little bit, and I'm done.
Yeah.
But like, it's a lot harder to get used to like that framework because there's no structure to it,
Yeah.
and you have to just get used to it. And like you said, like you're almost like nervous or scared to like take those photos. It's like, dude, just take them.
You just got to take them.
Like
Yeah.
it's just like with every other kind of photo we take. You know, like we've talked about portraits a lot, and a good example of this too is a lot of people don't do that. If you're gonna get better at something, you have to just start doing it.
Yeah.
And you may not get great ones right out the gate. You know, I see a lot of people take top downs and it's like, yeah, those are not bad. Like you're almost there to get a really, really good one.
Yeah.
But like you're really close. So just keep trying it.
Just keep going for it. Yeah.
But like I applaud the people who are doing that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that's what you should be doing. Like just jump in, see where you're at, and just keep working at it. Because then you're going to develop not only like the editing skills for it and know how to do that, you're going to recognize like how to shoot out in the field, whether it's like knowing times of day, conditions, or being able to see compositions.
Yeah.
Like that'll all start coming a lot more naturally. And like you're going to end up just building a good portfolio
Yeah.
with all of that. But like you have to just practice.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. That's all it is. I mean, that's how photography is just in general. But I was going to say, I was thinking about bringing up this point about maybe suggesting some, or maybe talking about what kind of gear maybe can help improve that. Like a drone, for example. I think a drone, if you're looking to do some really good abstract stuff as far as like, top downs and things like that, like a drone is a really good option. I think another one is look into getting a macro lens, or, something that's a little bit of a longer lens. Not that you can't do it. You can do abstract with whatever you have.
Yeah. Like I've taken like, a shot of like the side of a tree. And like when I was in Hawaii, like the side of a banyan tree, which is really cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that was a wider angle lens, but I was closer to it.
Yeah.
I didn't have to be far away.
Yeah.
But like when we're talking about like maybe shooting like the sides of a cliff or a tree line, anything like that, that's when you might want something a little tighter because it kind of flattens the frame a bit. Because that's one thing about like shooting top downs is it appears completely flat. And that's where like a lot of the different characteristics that we normally see in the landscape, they disappear.
Yeah.
And it just becomes one flat canvas that just looks like there's lines all across the place.
Exactly.
And so if you don't have a lens that can kind of do that and is still, like with wide angles, still kind of holds a lot of the depth in a photo, it's harder to pull some of those things out.
Yeah.
So a longer lens can help with that.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like you can get abstract stuff with whatever you have, but there are tools that help you to get different kinds of shots that might be, even better, like you said. So something that flattens the image and gets you a little bit tighter.
Yeah, but like ultimately, I think shooting abstract stuff is just a great way to just continue to be creative, and just push yourself and keep things fresh.
Yeah.
Like one of the reasons I love taking top downs is because it's so different than taking a normal landscape or a portrait. And it's just like almost a release from an escape from the normal photo life.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, I'm just going to go fly around and look straight down the ground, see what I find.
Yeah.
And like half the time I end up finding really cool things.
Yeah.
That make cool photos. And it's just by trial and error,
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't find them, but like other times we were in southern Utah one time. I literally got 24 new ones in a matter of 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And they were all different.
Yeah.
It's not like they were like the same. Like not only like were the concepts, the designs different, but like then I edited them all differently.
Yeah.
And like you can really have some fun with it and just break up your normal routine. It's fun in that way.
Yeah, exactly. And especially if you go to the right spots in southern Utah too, like it's like a playground for top down stuff and abstract stuff.
Yeah,
So.
but like all at the same time, like don't feel like you have to be in southern Utah to do this.
Oh yeah, you definitely don't.
I mean, I've also been Wyoming and Idaho and Arizona. Like, I mean, granted, those are also really cool places. But like, I've gotten cool stuff in Michigan.
Yeah.
In Illinois.
Yeah.
Like, you can get top downs anywhere.
Yeah.
You can find roads, you can find fields, trees. Like, there's so many lakes.
Yeah.
River, like, there's so many different things that you can include in a frame to like split a frame in half or just curve through your frame. Like, you don't have to be in the desert where all the cool stuff is.
Yeah, no. Or if you don't have a drone, you get your camera out and go find some trees. Go find some, like I said, a lot of people like to take pictures of, like macro photos of flowers. And there's just a lot that you can do. If you really want to push yourself, if you really want to stretch your creative muscle, you'll go find something.
Yeah.
So.
And like, again, I'm going to speak from top downs because that's more
your jam.
My jam in this sandwich,
Yeah.
But like when you're trying to find compositions, because that's like the tricky part a lot of times, you look and you're like, I don't know about this.
Yeah.
First, just take it, take the photo, and then bring it back to your Lightroom or wherever you're editing and get a second look at it later. Don't decide then, it's not good, I'm going to move.
Yeah.
Especially when you're developing the skill, like just take it out in the field and then come back and check on it later. But also just like, if you need to, like, go to like my page, for example, to see what like I do with some of my photos. A lot of times it's like I'm splitting the frame in half with one thing on each side, or like a river is like curving through, but it either like ends like at the very top center and bottom center, or like it curves like corner to corner.
Yeah.
Like there are certain things you can do, like all these different like patterns, you can find some kind of balance in them. Like sometimes it's like, I'm just gonna go find a cliff and let the cliff line like just run jaggedly through my frame and just end. But like there's still balance in the photo somehow. It's just like the cliff's here and the bottom's there, and it works out in making a great photo.
Yeah.
But that's not something you're gonna see and get the hang of until you start doing it.
Yeah. And I think this is just a thought I had after listening to you say that, but I feel like, when you're doing more abstract stuff, or specifically top downs, you're being much more mindful about your entire frame. And so it's almost improving your composition skills, because now it gets you used to thinking about, how do I fill out this entire frame appropriately? I found a lot of times when I'm taking landscape photos, I will frame up the part of the landscape that I really like, and I'll take the photo and I'll get it back and I'll be like, why did I leave so much sky? Like half my frame is empty. It doesn't work. It's like, or it's too right heavy, or it's too left heavy. So really working on paying attention to your entire frame and working out how to balance it. I feel like that does a really good job at kind of building that skill.
Yeah, I would agree. It's something that, like, when I'm out flying, especially now because I'm used to it. Like, I get up in the air and I'm looking around. I'm not looking straight down yet. I'm just looking around, and I'm noticing like, there's like a cliff there. There's some big rocks or some paths, like trees or whatever. Like, I'm seeing these like almost with a normal eye, not top down, and I'm like, there's gonna be something there.
Yeah.
And then I just go over and then look down, and I just start looking for it. And it's just like fine-tuning the frame. And I can't tell you how many times I find this spot. I'm like, okay, I can see it here. And then it's like, okay, I got to like just move a little bit more, rotate just a little bit, like just fine-tuning with just micro movements. Like what you said there was to just fill out the frame like properly. And obviously, I'm also kind of thinking about like how to crop it to 4x5 for Instagram.
Yeah.
At the same time, which, that's a different conversation. But like it really does force you to slow down.
Yeah.
Which I think is a great skill to have as well, because that also transfers over to like what I do with portraits and what I do with landscapes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like when I'm shooting portraits a lot of times too, it's like I'm just trying to find the right shot, not just get every shot. It's like find the one. And it's the same thing with abstracts.
Yeah, exactly. And all of those aspects of, abstract, textures, flow and lines and color and stuff, that all applies to portraits and landscapes, because you're still paying attention to all of these different lines and colors and textures and whatnot. And there's all these different elements that you have to play with in all these different types of photography. And so by really focusing on those, or maybe even hyper-focusing on them in abstract, just kind of helps you to see them a little bit better when you're doing other types of photography.
Yeah, just have some fun with it. You know, it's going to be new for a lot of people.
Yeah.
They've never tried this. And again, I was that same way. And then it's at some point, I don't know how, it just clicked.
Yeah.
And it's like suddenly I'm really good at it. And I don't know what I did.
Yeah.
But it's just practicing. That's all it is. But you have so much to play with,
Yeah.
from that kind of perspective. So there's a lot you can do.
Yep.
And it's fun. I hope that this episode, the focus of it was relatively obvious, even though we're talking about the not so obvious.
Yeah.
Like you can do a lot more with your work than you think, and you can push yourself creatively. And
Yeah.
like, that's the point of trying to explore in new situations like this.
Yep.
So,
Search for the not obvious.
yeah, it's just fun. So, and it'd also be fun if you subscribe to our YouTube channel. You know, we would greatly appreciate it because that helps us out quite a bit. And leave a comment. You know, if you are into this abstract game as well, if you want to challenge me to a top-down battle, bring it on. Will Mars, I'm looking at you.
He's been
coming for me.
coming for you. Yeah.
He's been coming for me.
He wants that throne.
And I don't like it.
Yeah.
But no, like leave a comment if you want to have some fun. We can go shot for shot. I'll beat you. It's okay though. But yeah, that's our YouTube channel. We're also on all major podcasting platforms if you prefer audio only. So there's that as well. So we'd love for you guys to go follow us on all those channels. And we're going to end the episode here. We got to bounce because we have a little dinner. Go and get some pizza.
Oh, yeah.
So it's going to be some fun.
Yep.
All right. See you guys later.
Bye.